Hello, and welcome to a brief walkthrough of our Science for Everyone templates that we use for all of our designs, our posts that go out on social media, on Instagram specifically. So this video I'm hoping will be pretty quick. We're going to assume you have like a base understanding of Illustrator. That's okay if you don't yet. We'll have other tutorials for those. But this will just walk through getting you set up with all of the different templates that we have for all of our different themed posts, and then the process that we'll go through and a couple of things to keep in mind as you're designing within each of these templates. So, as you hopefully know, within the Science for Everyone team drive, within the media team folder, there is a folder that contains all of our templates for each of our posts. So as you can see here, we have our templates for bad science, breaking news, did you know, myths, and so on, as well as a couple other miscellaneous templates that you'll need eventually. So go ahead and download all of these and save them somewhere safe on your computer. I have a folder that's dedicated to Science for Everyone and a subfolder for that for posts, and within that I have a templates folder. So go ahead and download those, organize your files. It's super, super important to keep your files organized. I always recommend creating a subfolder for each of the posts that you're working on so that all of your exports and design files and assets and templates and so on can live in there. So take some time to organize that, and then we'll jump right in. So I'm going to open up the myths template in Illustrator. And this is an example of what you'll see. From a high level view, you'll see 10 slides and an 11th slide just on its own floating below. And this is what all of the templates will look like, but with different colors. Each of them will have the same text and the same, base fonts here, but with a different color palette for each of them based on the type of research post that is going out on social media. So this is what it generally looks like. Our first slide is our title slide, and it looks exactly like you would see it posted on Instagram. So you have your title slide first, and imagine you're swiping through Instagram, slide 3, 4, 5. These ones are all the same because you can do really anything you want with them. And then we have a general end slide that you can also play around with and change the layout of. So all of this is, a suggestion with the exception of a lot of our brand elements. So having our Science for Everyone logo at the top, our handle at the bottom, our fonts that we use, 60-point regular and bold, or 48-point regular, 75-point spacing. The margins can change and so on, but generally a lot of this stuff stays static in the corners. So yeah, when you jump into all of your Illustrator files, you might be prompted with something that says, there's links missing, there's assets missing. One of those assets being this dot texture at the back that Cheryl made, who's one of our first designers. This texture is in the drive as well, so you can download that from the resources that are available to you, and you just click relink and find that file where you've saved it. So that's why I recommend saving it all in one central location. You might also get a prompt saying that your fonts are all broken and you can't find them, and Illustrator doesn't know what to do because the fonts are named differently, because we're all downloading the fonts from our drive as well in our brand resources. So what you're going to do is you can select replace font, or if you've canceled that and you've already jumped in, head up to type, find, replace missing font. And so it'll give you a list of all the fonts that are in your document on this top part, right? We have Babass New Pro Semi-Expanded Bold Italic. That is our title font. We have SF Pro Regular and SF Pro Bold. Those are our body fonts. And then there's a couple other ones around. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to select the one that has a yellow triangle that says that it's missing. And then you go down to the bottom. It says replace with font from. You'll probably choose System so that you can find them, and scroll through all of your installed fonts until you find the right one. Click it and click Change All. It'll automatically change all the fonts that are there. So you want to change the display regular with the regular that you've downloaded. It might just be slightly different. So that's a bit of a quick tip there that we get all the time because we're designing across devices, and Illustrator and Adobe don't necessarily love sharing files super easily. So yeah, that is that. next, what you can do is you can start designing, really. What you do with all of this stuff is up to you. But we have a few guidelines, and we'll go through that and we'll share with you. So we've organized everything into these layers that you can see. So the labels here are these posts here to let you know that this is for a carousel post, a 10 slide carousel post, and this one is for a single post. If you ever just get a request to do a single Instagram slide, the single slide stuff is all on one layer. The carousel stuff is split onto 2 layers. So the content, I'm going to toggle on and off, is all the text that goes on top of it. And then the carousel background is obviously the background. So the orange background that you can see. You can go ahead and you can change each of these things, and you'll see they highlight a different color. So if I select this background, you see it has a green outline, and that indicates to the green layer there, right? And you can go ahead and change this gradient. You can slide it around so that it's like slightly different, slightly lighter. It can go a different direction if that is what you choose and works well with your design. So again, totally up to you what you want to do here, as long as it fits within the brand and is consistent and cohesive. So from there, we're going to jump over to our Trello. You'll have a post that you've assigned yourself based on the design schedule. And we're just going to use Savil's post that she's working on called MSG is not actually bad for you. So we'll open up this Google Drive link, and that is where we'll find the post. You'll see at the top, it says who's the writer, editor, designer, etc. You can scroll past all the researchers planning, and then you get to the actual text. And this is outlined as the text for each of the slides of the post. So slide 1 is obviously the title and subtitle. And what you're going to do is you're just going to start copying and pasting things over. So again, we're assuming you know how to use Illustrator and can select the text here, paste it in. We always use the capitalized version of Babass New Pro Semi-Expanded Bold Italic. It's a mouthful. So you can do that. You can change that by going to the Properties panel or the Character panel, selecting the 3 dots here, and then clicking the 2 capital T's. It's the all caps version. And so you're going to see that doesn't really work on the first slide. That's like, oof, not great. So maybe, we want to split this onto different slides. The villainization, that still doesn't fit. We'll move MSG down there, and we'll hold shift and drag to scale this, right? And then maybe we'll make this a bit smaller. So we'll eyedropper this yellow text, this smaller subtitle. Again, let's make that capital, right? And so you can see it's the same style, but it's not necessarily the same exact font, because that's not going to work for every single title. And the layout is not going to be the same for everything. So misconceptions and myths about MSG. Great. Perfect. Let's break that onto 2 lines as well. Oh, look at that. That looks really ugly. So let's take that and we're going to change the line spacing, because we like our titles in our brand to be tighter together so that it's easier to read at a glance, right? If it's too spaced out, it looks kind of wonky. We're trying to essentially make recognizable shapes. This one is not as recognizable, so maybe you would put, like some sort of illustration here to connect this and to make it more of a rectangle, or to draw people onto the next slide. Up to you what you want to do with it. Think of this as like we're just speeding up the time it would take to do this from scratch. If you had absolutely no content here, it would take a lot longer, to set all this up. So trying to save you some time there. You'll keep on going. You'll be copying text over, and you can paste it into the sections here, right? You'll see there's a citation there. So we're going to grab our little box and we'll align it here. You can also insert these directly into the text if you use the superscript feature under the character panel. So whichever one floats your boat, I don't care if you delete this little floating one. They can be annoying sometimes, right? And then from there, what you do with this is up to you, right? We have our guidelines here for our margins, and we usually don't go past this widest margin. And then we have smaller margins within to try and make those recognizable shapes. So if we did, something like this, yeah, that's fine, but it makes like a weird shape here. You're not using any of this dead space here, right? So we might make that a bit smaller and center it with our align panel, great. And then our margins are a bit bigger, right? So we can change that and we can, do what we want with it and create some illustrations to go around it. So you'll do that for all of the different slides and so on and so on and so on to tell your story, to connect your illustrations together till you get to the very last slide. And this is where the credits will go. So we're in the process of updating the credits, but for now, they'll stay the same. You'll take the image of whoever's designing it and you'll place it within the circle so that the circle is centered, right? And then you'll grab the person who wrote it and you'll place it in the other circle. Usually it's the writer first, and you can probably just eyeball this to center it. But if not, again, you can select these two things and center them to selection, right? And then adjust this to the middle of that selection using your guides. Perfect. If you don't have your photo already cut out in a circle, totally fine. You can do that as a clipping mask. So you'll insert your image, Control or Command Shift P to place something, right? Those are all the headshots. You'll grab a circle tool, so it's under the rectangle tool if you right click, or shortcut L. You can hold Shift to make a perfect circle, drag it over your image, highlight both of them so that the circle's in front, right click, and make a clipping mask. You can adjust it by double clicking and you can drag this around. I want this to be a bit bigger on my face. Perfect. Double click out of it to get out of your isolation mode. Boom. You got it. And then you can make this the same size as your other images so that it doesn't look wonky. Ta-da, look at that. Now we have another photo created. So super simple there. You'll place yourself, do your Instagram handle if you so choose. And that is essentially the basics of all of this stuff. So a couple notes to get us through this. You can change these guides. These ones are the default guides that we showcase to, just get you started. But you can go to View, Guides, Unlock Guides, and that will let you drag the guides around, right? If you want to, or delete them. I personally like to have them there at first, just so I can get everything measured, and then I delete them. Or you can go View, Guides, Hide Guides, and then they're still there, but you just don't see them. You can also create new guides. So this one, we're like, oh, we want the margins to be a little bit, bigger. Great, I'm going to have these guides here, and that'll help me illustrate whatever. I generally put my illustrations also on the background layer. So once I'm done adding the text and I'm pretty happy with it, I'll lock it, and then I can't drag around the text. I can only drag around the background layers, and so on. Okay. The citations at the bottom as well, those are important. When you add another citation, it unfortunately will add it down here, and then it'll go off the page, which is annoying. So sometimes you'll have 4 citations. Try to drag it up and align it with the bottom of the other text here, and you can do that again by using a guide, just like that, right? And then it looks more consistent. You're creating a recognizable shape. You're creating recognizable white spaces that are aesthetically pleasing and are easier for people to understand the information that is being presented to them. Cool. I think those are mainly the biggest things about our templates. The rest is up to you, what you want to do with this. And I'll give you an example. This is the environmental impacts of space tourism. And this is a completely different look and feel, right? We have the text, we have the brand elements, but everything else within it is, its own thing. All of these exhaust clouds are just circles overlaid on top of each other with a slight white to gray gradient. These are just lines that we use with the pen tool, right? And the rest is just text with our Big Bass New Pro or SF Pro display. And then these are little spaceships that I drew with the pen tool as well. So again, you can change the ending slide if you absolutely need to, but otherwise, we're trying to make it easier. You might have all these images that will probably slow down your document. Feel free to delete all of them but one, just so that you have the reference for the text, and that's totally fine. And then also set up your layers as you wish. I created a template layer, and so this is where I put down all of my little illustrations and I started drawing over top of them, but I didn't want to keep moving this around, like having to realign everything. So I made a new layer, made it a template, and unlocked it. So now I can't drag it around anywhere. It's stuck there. Sweet. And then another one, this is the base rate fallacy. It's a little bit cleaner because I had more of a vision of what I wanted to do. Again, you can do pretty much anything you want. I created this grid to showcase the charts that were coming up with the cases for COVID-19 way back in January. And then just finding creative ways to lay out your text, right? So the base rate fallacy, you want to show that the count might not be the same as the rate of the occurrence in the total population, the total sample size. And so we're using text to do that. We're using illustrations as a background image or as a full concept here, right? It can be any of these things. They can bleed off the page. They can bleed between pages to draw people in, right? And then you can just have your simple end slide with the call to action. Totally up to you, what you want to do to convey the point. The challenge is coming up with, how do we best convey this information in a concise way? So yeah, that is essentially it. Always save your posts and label them accordingly so that you can find them. Try not to save your template after you've made edits to it without renaming it, because then you'll have to go and undo all of those edits every time you go to create a new post from that template. So go to File, Save As, change the title, add a new folder for it, and so on. That'll help you keep track of everything. So yeah, if you have any questions about the template, feel free to reach out to myself or Taya or any of the other designers. We have a few other tutorials walking through the process of designing or going over specific tools, but we'll try to work one-on-one with everyone to get them up to speed on how to use Illustrator, and you'll be an Illustrator whiz in no time. So hope you enjoy. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.